Melissa found it online.
Oh, that's my son.
Oh, okay. So cute.
That was something I had on the Sarnia Ultimate website a while ago, and she found it.
Yeah. Cute.
It probably looks more like me than the
emoji. Yeah. A bit.
Yeah, my Bitmoji might be a little bit thinner than I actually am.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. All right, we'll be starting in 4 minutes.
All right. Ooh, the English game. I haven't heard of that one, Katie. I want to try that out now. Oh, Sherlock did that one.
Outlander is a great one.
Yeah, Outlanders I've read like 3 times now. It's a little crazy.
The English
Hi, Katie.
Hi. The English game is so good. It's about soccer in England in like the late 1800s and how they formed the soccer association. Okay. And it's so good.
What's it called again? It's on our feed, but
the English game.
English game. Okay. Awesome.
All right, I'm checking it out.
I'm going to mute myself as well for now.
Okay.
So how are we doing for time? 1:57. All right, I'm going to close the chat so I can see the screen better, but let me know if there's like questions that I should be answering, okay?
Yep.
You got it.
Shane, hi Shane.
What's going on?
A nice picture.
Not much. Trying to get exercise while we're doing this.
Oh, yeah.
I've set up the dining room with a spin bike, so hey.
Oh, there you go. We've got a little makeshift gym in our basement, trying to just kind of make it work.
How come your virtual backgrounds are working? I'm going to go on my personal computer tomorrow so I can put cooler stuff in.
It's probably just a user issue, Melissa, more than anything.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm going to be right back. I'm going to go kind of trying to get into the Seesaw one, just having some issues. So I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, Ozark not family friendly.
Which one?
Ozark.
All right.
Good though.
Tiger King. I've got to see it. I will. Hi, Sherry.
It's like a guilty pleasure, right?
So incredible. All right, we got 1 minute. Love it. Thank you, everybody, for participating in that. 99.
What's 99?
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh yeah, I've seen that, Jeff. We're re-watching that now. We're quite enjoying it.
So much fun.
Look at you. Look how much hair you've got going on in your chin now.
Yeah. I was supposed to have a haircut during March break.
Yeah.
So I'm about 3 weeks behind on that.
Yeah, my husband, I'm ready to like just take out the kitchen scissors now.
All right, 2 o'clock. We're ready.
All right, go.
All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. We're going to get started. So this is frequent Google Suites use, applications and extensions, part A. Here we go, the traditional acknowledgement.
Oh, sorry, I'm answering chats. The traditional territory acknowledgement. I acknowledge that the land upon which we are gathered, all of us, is part of the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Delaware nations. I am particularly grateful for the land at this time, as we spend so much time indoors that every day I make a point of going outside and making sure I embrace the fact that we have such a clean outdoors.
Thank you. So we are your hosts. I'm Teresa Lopatron. I'm the English Language Learner Support Teacher. I'll be facilitating today. Brian Jubenbell is the Assistive Technology Resource Teacher. He will be working and talking about accessibility tools. Melissa Dent works for the LKDSB as a teacher. She is going to be talking about Google Forms, and Kristen Sutton is another LKDSB teacher. She will be minding the chat. So this is just a glance of what we're going to be touching on this week, today, tomorrow, and Friday. So we're going to be digging deeper into Google Forms today and talking about assistive writing tools. Tomorrow we'll be talking about Google Slides, Supercharge, assistive reading tools, and translation tools. And Friday, Google Meets and Calendar, parents as partners, and answering questions from this week through the chat. So here we are in remote learning. So the 6 remote learning guidelines: asynchronous learning, pace, prioritize, available, intentional, and familiar. We are all in this together. We're here to support you as we go through this new way of learning. So asynchronous learning, it's not online all the time. It's not like your traditional, obviously. It's learning that can be completed. It's flexible. You kind of choose how you're going to present and what platform you're going to use. That's why you're in here today. We'll move on to pace. You create experiences from students to work at their own pace. Items can take 2 to 3 times longer at home, so keep that in mind. Prioritize, less is more. Identify the learning that is most needed. These are your students. It's your classroom. You know what's best for your students. Available. Set up some office hours. This can be at your own time. Again, it's your class, your students, your choice. So you want to try to block out some time each day via online, Google Meets, email, or phone to be available to your students. And intentional. Which resources and activities will boost learning? What still needs to be addressed this school year? Use overall expectations to get that across when you can. Familiar. Begin with the tools you're currently using in Google Suites. Introduce new tools slowly to your students. It'll take some time. It's taken us some time. It's a learning curve. And these are the 6 remote learning guidelines. So we are supporting, we have Seesaw support, which some of you might have been in today. We're offering 3 different times. They are going to be recorded and put on the website. So feel free to jump in if this isn't what you were wanting to be at. You can join a different date or a different time at a different section. And this is the Google Suites. We are offering new to Google Suites, currently using Google Suites, and then our sessions. And again, they will be recorded, so you can look at all of them or hop out of this one and go to another one tomorrow, whatever's best for you. So feel free to add your questions to the chat. We will do our best to address your questions when we can. We're going to try to have them all answered for you as best we can by Friday. The chats will be emailed to me. So we will be looking at them and getting back to you as best we can. And here we are. Brian Jubenbell, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. I'm going to start by just saying that we're starting to gain an appreciation for what it is to learn these tools as we've been kind of learning the intricacies of Zoom the last few days. And I know as a group that identifies as comfortable or frequent use of Google applications that you'll have lots of ideas and experiences to bring to the students, but I'd like to bring the focus a little bit towards thinking about what their experience is as a student. I know there are amazing, endless tools that exist to engage our students. However, there's another aspect of engagement that perhaps we discuss not as much, and that's simply the ability of a student to be successful. Feeling successful is ultra engaging. A writer learning how to write, a reader starting to build that confidence as a reader. That extends through all of life, whether it's through sports, through music, through relationships. When you start to feel success, then it makes you feel growth and it makes you feel drawn to it. So a big part of today's discussion with assistive technology is about making sure we're thinking about that success. Our ability as a teacher to find out where our students are at and move them forward can be a key element of engagement. And our accessibility considerations tell our students that we see their strengths and that we can use them to overcome many challenges. Today we'll discuss assistive writing tools in particular and how we can foster success in a remote learning situation. Are you passing that over to me, or I see that?
Yeah, I'm trying to pass it to you.
Trying to give me the screen. Okay, well, I'm going to take
Yeah.
over the screen. I'm just going to grab the slideshow for a second here.
Thanks.
And there we go. Now, Rod, do I need to present for everyone to see, or does everyone see my full screen already?
Everyone can see the slides, but they see all the slides on the left. If you hit present, they'll just see that one slide, and then you can advance the slides in the bottom left-hand corner.
Okay, no problem. So a quick little overview. We're going to talk about some foundational things about assistive technology. We're going to quickly talk about some of the most familiar spaces and tools that you're probably already using, and that we should continue to use those, even though Melissa and yourself, you're going to explore lots of neat ways to engage your students. But we're going to make sure that we have those familiar ones down, and same with the tools. We'll talk specifically about some of the tools that the kids are using, that the kids with assistive technology, and the ones that maybe could use it more, even though they haven't had a trial or don't have the equipment. Some quick ready to go routines for starting next week: how to set up a digital workspace, how to have a really simple digital writing process that they can use each time they write, and it's easy to remember. And as teachers, make sure that we're considering the purpose of the task and discussing how does that influence the tools that we suggest our students use, and maybe we have a role in helping them choose tools that help their output. And then I also want to mention some things of like stamina, efficiency, idea generation. A lot of times with assistive technology, we can look at it and look at the student output and think, well, I'm not sure the technology is really helping. But that's often not the case. The technology is helping, but there are just other aspects and other things that we need to help the students with. And if nothing else today, I hope that you be reminded that your assistive technology team is waiting in the wings, working on lots of resources to help you understand how these tools work in different environments as you start remote learning. So I'm hoping, if we talk about assistive technology, that we're going to have a heightened awareness about the value these assistive tools provide many of our students. Essentially, as you work through remote learning over the next couple of weeks and maybe beyond, that you're thinking about, do I have an effective means for my students to share their ideas? And if you start to get material back from your students that you feel isn't up to their potential, their standard, what other tools or what other approaches can I maybe use to help make sure that I'm getting the most out of what my students have to offer? Now, quite often, especially the beginning of the year, when I'm around schools and working with teachers, I can often be told that, teachers will tell me, I use read and write all the time. I spent a good chunk of the time at the beginning of the year showing the students all the tools, how they can use it for their classwork, and that sort of thing. I just want to remind people that it's likely a very extremely worthwhile exercise to review this as you head into a remote learning experience. We are fortunate that we have lots of significant background knowledge of our students in this scenario because we've worked with them in class for months. So let's just keep in mind their strengths and weaknesses as we prepare learning materials, tasks, and assess the work in the coming weeks. I've talked to a couple of teacher friends, some from outside of board, that have already started meeting with their class, some in large groups, some in smaller groups. As you listen to today's material about assistive technology, I I want you to just think about whether or not some of these introductory activities that I suggest or show today and tools are something you might share with your whole group, or if it's something that you might consider doing with a smaller group of students. So all of our classes look different, but yeah, you can decide whether some of these things are something that are our whole group or just smaller group. Now I can probably imagine that as we consider what next week and beyond looks like for us, and we're learning new tools. Obviously, we're all here today to learn some new ways to share material with our students and whatnot. And Melissa's going to have lots of great things to share later on that front. But yeah, we also need to just keep in mind that we've got our kids with their individual needs, and I just want to go over a few ways to start with assistive technology and just show kids how it's possible and make you feel like it's a possible element to include, especially next week as you get started. The first thing I want to suggest is oftentimes we have a full toolbar that the kids download, and we might suggest here and there a tool, or maybe to start, kids are just kind of going off what's been suggested by their assistive technology resource teacher. But we can be also very intentional about the use of the toolbar. So one thing I'm suggesting is maybe pare down your toolbar right away with all of your students or that small group of students, and have the students know that every tool has a purpose. So if we left it on the toolbar, it's because it's for a reason. I am counting on you using it, or I want you to know that it's a backup there in case you need it. But let's eliminate all the ones that we're not using. And if you feel like, yeah, but there are some tools that we'll use down the road, like the highlighters or the voice note tool, whatever it is that you feel that's not on my smaller list here, it might be something that you add one at a time as your activities continue or as the weeks go on, and then make sure you bring that focus to it when you're going to use it. And that way they know that that toolbar is really for regular use, and they feel confident that they know what it's there for and what each tool is used for. Now, I went through the participant list, and I do obviously recognize many names, but there are lots that I don't recognize. I'm sure many from different parts of the district. But I want to focus on, to start, the idea of ensuring that all of your students have a primary recording tool. So maybe as you have some time to reflect on your students, or even as the days kind of start, and you start to get material back from your students, think about how they're getting their ideas out. I mean, a lot of your students are just going to be able to type their ideas and get their ideas out that way, and that's great. But especially for students where you're seeing that they're not giving a lot of output, take a moment and ask yourself why. Is it because they're just not confident with how to get ideas out, how to get a word out, how to get a sentence out? So I'm going to quickly just take a few minutes and go over some of the key tools that help our students get their ideas out. I'm just going to toggle over. So here's an example of just a regular Google Doc. And I quickly want to show you in the options here. If you click the options where the three dots are and you click the features, this is where you can see where I pared down my toolbar. Translator tool, if you have students, ELL students, you want that on, but if not, it's another one that we can turn off. You can see I have most of them off, and I'm focused on just select few tools that you might be sharing with your students. And most of these tools, other than the play, pause, and stop, are really focused on getting ideas out. Let's start with the prediction tool. You likely are familiar with it, but there are intricacies that can really make a difference for students. If I want to spell the word knowledge, if I start with the K-N, oops, gotta click here. If I know it starts with a K and an N, then quickly you can see that it uses the first few sounds or first few letters to predict my word. But if I don't know that it starts with those letters and I still want to use this impressive word, then I can start sounding it out. N, a, l, eh. And you can see it really has no idea what word I want until I add the last sound. And then you see number 7 on the list, it's there. So the first thing you can impress upon your students if you're teaching them the prediction tool is that, yes, it tries to predict or guess the words in the first few sounds or letters, but don't give up there. If you can add all of the sounds in a word, then you'll find your word. And especially for uncommon words. And oftentimes it takes right to that last sound for you to find the word you're looking for. And the tool is remarkably impressive for finding words sounded out phonemically. Not perfect, but very remarkable for how well it works. And students can really, as they use it, get more and more confidence in the tool that it's going to help them find their words if they invest that time and energy into sounding out the word fully. Now, if you think about a student that's not really getting their ideas out, it could quite possibly be that they're used to, if you look at the sentence lower there, it says, what delivery person just, sorry, no, not what, the delivery person just leaves packages at the door now. If that's the way they get their ideas out, they might not be confident sharing that sort of communication with the teacher, with the class. But the big part of this is convincing them that with a click here, like sounding it out, using the tool, I turn the tool on. That's a good point actually, is that sometimes the tool looks like it's on, but unless the purple underline is under the tool, then it's not actually on. But get your ideas out quickly, sorry. Oh, delivery, yep, so it speaks. After they've sounded out each word and got their ideas out, it's just a matter of clicking at the end of each word. Looks like we have a bit of delay here. Try packages. Okay, and I won't do through all of it, but down below, 2 sentences below, you can see that, you know, once they've got that cleaned up a little bit, they can be very proud of the sentences and the ideas that they're sharing. The other tool is the talk and type tool. And this may be a primary tool for students, especially in the beginning. We often advocate for working towards moving towards a prediction tool because the talk and type tool isn't often a very private tool. But I do suggest that that changes with remote learning because oftentimes students will be in a quiet spot. They're not going to have their peers around. So the talk and type tool might be a great way for them to get their ideas out. And I suggest that if you have students that are using the talk and type tool, here's a few suggestions for you. I call it the Goldilocks of tools because you don't want to speak too fast or too slow. If you just use a regular pace, most often students will have success with it. And they need to minimize background noise, speak clearly, and enunciate. And if you find or the student finds that they're not being successful with that, then you might have to record or move to the record tools, which we'll likely focus on more on another day. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is just share a file. I call this, I called it a Chris Hadfield file. I'm not sure I'm going to get a chance to show you the video that I had in mind, but I just wanted to give you a little taste of an explicit practice activity that you could share with your students. I think especially foundational pieces of learning, no matter whether it's, say you're talking about a sport, say hockey or something, I'm a hockey coach. If I want kids to pick up a foundational skill, the only way to do that is to have explicit practice. You just can't show the skill once and then expect that it's going to just show up in your practice or going to show up in your games. You have to dedicate the time to practice it so that the students can understand it and build confidence in it. So as you're getting going with digital tools, some of your students in that small group, for example, might need to practice using the tool, and it needs to be scaled back more than just using it with sentences. Now our team does have a bunch of explicit practice activities already created that could be used, but if it's something you wanted to use yourself and create things on your own, I wanted to show you what that could look like. So here's a regular Google Doc. One of the tips that I do give is to have students set up their workspace. So right away, turn on their prediction tool, turn on their picture dictionary. That way these tools are there and open, ready to go. Here's an activity where I can click an object, hit play. Rod, any ideas why I don't hear anything?
Are you hearing anything out of your computer locally?
No.
I'll
try another one.
Yeah, try a different.
No, not sure. So I guess when I'm not presenting in presenting mode, you can click one of these boxes and it'll read a word aloud. And the nice thing there is it allows the student to practice certain words. So I believe that one of these words here is the word atmosphere. So they could practice atmosphere. Interesting, Rod, because I don't see the toolbar also working.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar as you are with this particular tool. It should be just operating on your screen, and then it's just projecting it over the web. I don't know if reloading the page would help. Might be a good.
I'll try that. Okay. Well,
Is something playing there?
did you hear that?
I think if you heard it, I think the way we heard it really faintly, it might have been going in your microphone. But when you share your screen, if you have, did you click that little box?
Oh, right. No, I did not. That's okay for now, Rod. I think I'm gonna. Okay. I think people have got an idea. So then, yeah, this kind of introductory activity. What I had in mind, I'm not going to show the video because I'll lose a couple minutes doing that. But it was just a Chris Hadfield video explaining how basically when the astronauts are doing, he kind of explains the whole toileting process of being in space and how they release the solid remains out of the spaceship and then into the atmosphere, and it burns up. And so next time you see a shooting star, then that might be what you're actually seeing. So you could take a kind of an engaging video like that to introduce an activity like this, and then just take words out of that video, or if you had a text, take words out of that text and just create a little bit of practice for the kids. And then for those students that really need it, they get to practice using the tool. And the way I've done that is just created an object. I say this whole activity is possible through a little feature called alt text. If you create any object and right click on it and then click on alt text, this feature was kind of created for visually impaired support, but anything you write in this description box with an alt text will be read aloud when the student clicks the box and hits the play button with the read and write toolbar. So the students aren't aware of this alt text feature, so it allows you to dictate words or even sentences, as I show below here. I could, instead of creating a little question mark box, I could also just find any image, insert it in a table, right click on it. Sorry, click it once. Once it's selected in blue, right click, select alt text, and then I can create a sentence. And that sentence will be read aloud to students. Now, in doing lots of practice with students, I've noticed that a full sentence is too much for them to remember. So they can also create a little segments or fragments. Give them the first third of the sentence, give them the second third of the sentence, give them the third third of the sentence. Anyways, this is just an example of an activity where you can have the kids practice using their tools explicitly for the first few days. And then hopefully as you move into learning and responses and all that kind of stuff, students have more confidence using the tools and will share more and be more successful. I do want to remind or let you know that I often give this little writing process as my guide for using the assistive tools. Type your ideas first, then use the supports that are already available in Google Docs. Many of you will be familiar that in the tools section here under spelling and grammar, if you click on spelling suggestions and grammar suggestions, you've got red and blue underlines that will help the kids see the mistakes that they've made. If I just toggle over to this one here, their writing will start looking like this. They'll get their ideas out first, then they'll see that they've got some red and blue underlines to deal with. And so they can one at a time use the tools to correct those. As long as they sound it out phonetically, they'll find their words. Again, it's not really refreshing well here. Until they can create, fix all the red and blue underlines. They should start a norm in the classroom that nothing gets handed in with a red or a blue underline. And then after they've taken care of that step, then they've got these check it tools here that works very similar to the red and blue underlines, but it actually finds additional errors that Google Docs does not find. It's really helpful for commas, for capitalization things. So check it's a great tool and worthwhile to help students take it even a step further. And then the last step, which I'm sure many of you have heard, is listen back. Make sure that it's accurate. Make sure it says what you want it to say and that it's clear. Now, Google Docs is the only spot where all four of those are possible. Okay, these tools are Google Docs tools. For example, Google Slides doesn't have grammar support to my knowledge. The Check It tool, even though Read and Write works online, any website, it'll work in Forms, any of those other great Google Suite applications, you'll have most of the tools. You'll have Prediction, you'll have Talk and Type. You will not have Check It. The Listen tool you will find in all of those. So these middle two right here are only available in full in Google Docs. So another interesting or good tip is that you might, whenever you're going beyond just words or small phrases that you want students to input, if you want paragraphs or full responses, encourage your students to start in Google Docs, do the Type, Tools, Check It, Listen process. And once they've got it looking accurate and clear, then they can copy and paste it into a Google form, or they can, depending on how formal you want your writing and your responses to be. Okay, I'm gonna head back to the slideshow for a second here and wrap up. Please consider when you're planning a task or an assessment, is it the purpose to learn how to write, or is the purpose to do some writing to show you some learning? The purpose is just to communicate. Please know that there are several tools that can help them do that. The prediction tool is just one, or typing is just one. Speaking in is another tool. But some students may be more successful if they could just record their ideas. So, and a couple of my slides here that I have that I'm not going to spend much time on is just to make you aware that a lot of the tools that we have with our SIA applications that allow kids to just record their voices, and if they have speech articulation issues, so the talk and type doesn't work and they can't sound out words very well, we often just get them to use their voice and share their ideas. Any camera tool and any device would work. Explain everything gives you a little bit more power to record video and to edit video. Explain Everything, just so you know, is actually for the next, while schools are closed, they've just released that it's going to be free for any device. So that's iPad and Chromebooks, laptops. Claro PDF, if you have students that are using that, but they don't have their SIA iPad, Claro on their website is announcing that Claro Pro is also free. And this allows students to embed videos of themselves in worksheets. So if you're familiar with those tools, know that they're going to be available and free for students going forward. But yeah, as a overall, just be thinking about which of these tools, if I'm not happy with the response and the output of my students, maybe there's a better tool for them to get their ideas out. Maybe they need to start by recording their ideas first, and then you could take that recording and then think about pulling 1 or 2 sentences out of that and practicing the writing aspect, the learning to write, and just maybe write 1 sentence at a time. Okay. All right, well, overall, I hope yeah, that I've drawn your attention back to what assistive technology tools can offer your students as they begin their remote learning next week. That we start in familiar places like Google Docs, and that most of the supports are available in Google Docs and that they're familiar with. Consider the purpose of the task and help that guide whether you're encouraging your students with AT or that can benefit from AT, whether they use the prediction tool, the talk and type, the record. And ultimately, as you get started, and if you want to do some practice activities to get going with your students, know that the AT team is here to help, especially with your struggling readers and writers. And we'll be working on the sidelines. We're actually working on a Google site in the next few days and into the next week to start sharing some of these resources with teachers. Hopefully by Friday, we can have an address for that out to you, so you have a one-stop shop to where you can find supports. So anyway, thank you for your time today, and good luck with your planning for next week.
Hey guys, hopefully you can all hear me. This is Melissa Dent. I'm going to give me a thumbs up so I know. I hate the quiet.
We can hear you.
Fantastic. All right, just really fast, going to go over what we're doing again this week. So we're going to do a deep dive into Google Forms today. I'm going to do a deep dive into Google Slides, basically, and then we're going to touch on Google Meets. Be aware that there are separate sessions available for Google Meets, but there's a few things that I just wanted to talk about and as it integrates into Calendar so that you can set up individual appointments with your students. All right, here we go. I gotta move you guys around so I can see. There. All right, deep dive into Google Forms. You'll see that I have put a bit.ly on the bottom so that if you want access to this particular presentation, the bit.ly is there and you can go in at any time. So you can look at it now if you want, or you can go back and look at it. Those of you who know me know that I tend to talk too much and give way too much information. So just take what you can from it. I'm also aware that most of you are advanced Google users. But I don't know where each of you actually is. So I'm going real fast from the very beginning. Start at the very, here we go. So here's the table of contents of what I'm going to cover. If you click each of these, it's hyperlinked so that you can go to that particular slide when you want to come back and say, oh yeah, how did I do that? And at the bottom, I put a little home button so that it'll take you back to the table of contents every time. All right, the first thing I thought was really important to mention, because I've been seeing this a fair amount with teachers, is I have way too many Zoom things going on here. Is that when you're logging on to Google Forms, or onto Google at all, like you have to log into Google Chrome, Please note that you have your school account, and then most of us also have a private account. Don't go in here to change your account and add another account. That's why your data keeps going back and forth and you don't know where you're at. Just go into here, add another person, and then you can see I can switch back. Like, here's all my personal stuff. There's my banking information. And then here, I'm back in the board account. This is how you add a user. I'm not going to go over all this with you. This is how you can remove your account from the sign-in page. And then this is in case you've signed yourself in a bunch of different computers all over the board. This is how you can sign out of absolutely every Google application you've ever signed into, so that you know that you're out of that account and nobody can get into that information. All right. Opening a Google form. So there's 3 ways that you can access Google Forms. There is forms.new. You just type it right into the browser up here. So I just go forms.new and it will open up a new one for me. You can also, of course, access it through your Google Waffle, and you can access it through G Suites. So the first tip that I'd like to give you, I'm going to try to give you a couple of tips and tricks for those of you that are advanced, and hopefully you're getting one that you don't know. When you title your form, so let's call it remote learning. I can go over here and just click it and it automatically gives me the title. To add questions, I just click on this right here. And here's another tip for you. You know how we always have to ask the students to put their name on things? And yes, I know it tells you what student it came from, but if you put first name and then you give them last name, they always give you their actual correct name versus, you know, their nickname or their last name first or whatever. And then when you go to look at your data, it's going to be a lot easier for you to read. Oh, I wanted to talk a little bit about all of the different kinds of questions that there are. So there are this many questions. Short answer, paragraph, multiple choice, etc. I wanted to mention drop-down. Drop-down is an excellent way to put in things, especially if you're collecting data for yourself and you've put your entire class list in. You don't want to put multiple choice and then scroll through 35 kids. Drop down, if you have more than 4 choices, drop down is a great one to put in there. Also, upload files is going to be very useful for you, for students to be able to get stuff from their Google Drive and share it in Google Forms for you with their files. Oh, here's another tip for you. If you want to be able to move to the next question quickly, for me, I'm on a MacBook, so it's Command-Shift-Return. If I just hit Command-Shift and Return, it pops me down to the next question really fast, which is awesome. There are many, many, many keyboard shortcuts, and I know that we're going to spend a fair amount of time over the next month typing in on the computer. So to minimize your screen time, I highly recommend that you look at the Google shortcuts for keyboard that are available. And I've linked them all here for you so that whatever device you're on, you can go in and you can do that. All right, let's look at the settings gear in Google Form. This is your settings gear. In general, it's a good idea to collect email addresses while we're doing this world. Normally I don't, because I know when the kids are logging in who they are and where it came from, but you may be sharing Google Forms with parents. Students may be logged in on their different or personal Gmails. So I would highly recommend that you collect email addresses. It's up to you whether you want to do a response receipt. I have 52,000 emails, so I appreciate it, and I never click that one. Normally, I would tell you to always use restrict to users in the Lambton-Kent District School Board because of privacy issues, but because you're doing it remotely and because they might be in other accounts, I'm going to advise that you take off that restriction to this one. You can limit it to 1 response, but for those kids who go through Sure, you don't have any of those. And then think, oh yeah, I should have said that. You can allow them to respond again, or you can allow them to edit it after they have submitted. The C summary charts and text responses is great if you're putting out something like, what song do you want for grad? It will email them back that chart so they can see automatically who's picking the most. For presentation, I never use show progress bar. You can literally put 4,000 questions in a Google form. I don't advise that. So I never use that one. That's entirely up to you. Shuffle question order is fantastic if you're doing multiple choice because it moves it around every single time somebody enters the form. And then show link to submit another response. If I'm doing a digital breakout, I won't allow that. But for everybody else, yeah, I'm fine if you respond more than once. Remember this. Change your confirmation message. What an awesome opportunity to send something to your kids, right? So you can use this for go outside or go read a book for an hour, or you can even put a URL in there. And then when they submit their form, it'll pull up as a live link. So they're like, okay, now go here. And it'll take them to that website next. And then quizzes, I'm going to touch on some more later. So I'm going to save that one for now. All right, where am I? Hopefully I'm not talking too fast. Oh, how do you send your forms? All right, lots of different ways. Click send, duh. You can collect the email address. You can send it via email. So if you're sending it to parents, that's probably the way you're going to want to do it. You can do it with a link, drop it into the Google Classroom, or email out the link if you want. You can also do QR codes if you want. So if I'm in an audience where I know they have another device, it's super fast for them to pick up that device, scan the QR code, and then immediately quickly answer that feedback. And then the last one that I use, if I'm in a situation where I don't have a Google Classroom with them, I don't know if they have devices that will read QRs, is I pull up Bitly's. I use Bitly's a lot to direct both students and other adults that I teach. I will use a Bitly because it gets them to the website. And this is linked, by the way. There's a QR reader here for you, as well as the Bitly website. It'll track how many people have hit that Bitly, but it'll take them there fast, and you can, personalize it so that it makes sense. So the one that we created today is GS3 forms in all caps. So hopefully you're able to remember that. All right, making a copy of a form. So you might be creating a form. Hear that? You might be creating a form and you want the same form for a different class or maybe for next year. You can create a copy of it and then change things out as is appropriate. The other thing that you can do, which I think is fantastic in this situation, is you can add collaborators. So if you are an intermediate teacher who's working with a bunch of teachers, or you're a prep teacher who needs to communicate with another teacher, you can just add your collaborators right here, and you can both work on the form in real time, which is one of the wonderful things that I love about Google. All right, let's quickly look at data. So if I have responses in here, let me preview this form. So this is going to show me what it's going to look like to everybody else. Ooh, I hate it. Let's go to customize theme and let's change that because I don't want every single form to look exactly the same. That's also going to be easier for me to find. So let me preview the form. Let me quickly put in some information. Sorry, I did tell you to enable this one, but I should have disabled it for this so you don't have to watch me type in my address. And then, all right. So now I'm going to submit it. Ooh, required questions. So that's called response validation, and I'm going to show you where that is. So I've submitted that. You see that I have one response up here. When I click that response, it's going to give me a summary. Now there's only me, so look, I got 100%. It's going to give me a summary of who has responded. It'll give me charts and graphs. It'll look at the question, so I can scroll through and look at each question individually for each student. So I'll see that, like, this is question 4 for every single student that has responded. And then I can look at individual students. So I can see what did this student say and individually check out what they've done. Oh, I want to show you about charts. So let me take you into here. Oh, I need a chart for that, don't I? Ah, all right. I'm just going to show you this because I don't want to waste your time. So down here, you can take the information from the chart directly and copy it into a Google slide, which I love. So if you know how students have to, in the data management, they have to create charts. So they can create Google Forms, gather information, and then they can drop that information directly from the Google Form into a Google slide. So it's great. It's a drag and drop. Super, super easy. This GIF here talks you through the process. You just have to click on to copy for that particular form and then drop it into a slide, which you can, of course, open by just typing slides.new in your browser. How am I doing for time? Okay. Differentiating. So you can change, you can add images individually to each question. I'm a visual learner. I love having images to look at. You can also add images individually to the answers. So maybe you want your answers to have an image associated with it. And then you can differentiate by embedding videos. So when you're embedding a video, you probably want to title the video, and then below it you'd put your question, you know, respond to this video with. And then my most favorite is, I have a bit of an obsession, you may have noticed, with GIFs. So you can put GIFs directly into the form. You can find generic ones here. Make sure that they're appropriate first. This one is my favorite. And somebody unmute your mic so you can tell me whether or not you can see this. So not for the students, for you, because you've got to be cognizant of privacy. Because we're doing remote learning and because those kids miss our beautiful faces, you can create a GIF of yourself. And then I can embed that directly into my Google form, right? So I can click save. I can go here. I can save that image on my desktop, and then I can put it directly into my Google form. So I can have multiple choice of, you know, yes, no, maybe, with just goofy GIFs of my face. Those of you out there who didn't like Google Forms because you were a math teacher, there's 2 different ways for you to put math questions into Google Forms. So if you have more complex math questions, more than 2 + 2, you know, 2 squared divided by whatever, these 2 different websites that will work for you. I can't recommend Equatio enough. It's also a Google Chrome extension, and you can get to that here. This is how you use it. This is a video tutorial. And here's a whole nother option over here for you. Okay. Quizzes. Should I stop because we're at time, aren't we?
Yeah, we're at the 45-minute or past.
I know. So should I quit here and bump this into tomorrow? Because quizzes is where it really does amazing things.
Can we get a thumbs up, guys, or a thumbs down? Keep going, I see. Okay, all right. Feel free to drop out. You can always come back and go back over the presentation if you want to. Okay, so quizzes. I love, love, love quizzes in Google Forms. It's a great way to do a mental health check-in with your kids because right now we don't have, you know, usually you look them in the eye and you see their body language. You can send out a little mini quiz saying, you know, how do you feel? And they can quickly answer. You can do a quiz in your settings. So you can go into your settings right here. Wow.
right here and make this a quiz. Or you can always go, there's templates available. You can just pull up a template. You're not going to worry about locking it right now because you're not there. You can release the grade immediately after each submission, which is fantastic if you're doing a multiple choice where it's a definite yes or no. But recommendation, do not release the grade if you're putting short answer or long answer in that you have to go back and double check, because it releases the grade with those questions as 0 and they get really stressed out. But it's great. When you're doing assessment for, summative, or not for summative, for formative, those multiple choice quizzes used to take me forever to sit at home and grade, and I never got them back to them fast enough to be effective feedback. So this is a great way. It immediately tells them if they've got it or they don't have it, and you see it as well. You can have them do missed questions. You can show them the correct answer. You can show them the point values. I always show them point values because they know the higher I put the points, the more effort I want them to put into that question, to skip down and do the high point questions first. So you can do that in settings. So let me show you what that looks like in quizzes, because I really want to talk to you about doing choose your own adventure quizzes. It gives you an opportunity to differentiate for the kids. So if they get a question right, ding, ding, they move on to the next question. But if they get a question wrong, you can intervene right there and then and give them feedback. You can send them to a website, watch this quick little video, or you can add a little hint in there. So you can direct them down the path and the branch that you want them to go based upon that, right? So let's look at this well-being quiz that I just created. Why are you not clicking? Oh, because my husband's down there using too much Wi-Fi. I bet you any money. Let me do a reboot. I'm going to do a reload. There you go. All right. So as you see, I always do first name, last name, and I'm going to show you why that is so important. I've made it out of 19 points. I've added some images here. So are you panicked? Are you happy? Are you sleepy? In here, with these questions, I can go down to, I'm going to do an editing. There we go. I can create new sections. See this button right here? This will add a section for me. So you can see I've added a section called panic. So if, and this button down here, this means that it's a required question. I can go into here and I can click go to section based on answer. So if they are panicked, I am going to send them to my panic section. And if they are happy, I'm going to send them to my happy section. And if they are sleepy, I'm going to send them to my sleepy section. So that when they do the quiz, it's going to give them what they need versus I'm going to do this for every kid and, I'm going to pick out what they need out of it. All right, so now let's look at that quiz. I'm going to answer it. What is my current mood? Okay, I'm panicked. I'm freaking out here, people. All right, have I tried 10 slow deep breaths? Have I rested from the screen and news? Have I gone outside for a walk or stood under a tree? Lots of evidence that says being near trees actually brings you down. Have I spent time with my pet? Let me click next. Have I gotten 8 hours of sleep? No. All right, so you get the idea. So now let's go back. I'm going to submit this really fast. You don't want to watch my state of well-being right now, I would assume. You can see that I have responses. Summary, question, individual. I've already gone over that with you. I can go into the questions and I can give them feedback right here. And not only, I can always have put in some feedback for them, and I can edit that feedback accordingly. So I can have, you say the same thing over and over again to kids. Did you check for this? You can have that feedback already in there so that you can click it and put it in. or you can edit it and put in what's more individual for that particular child. All right, so I can add all my feedback. I can go to this button right here, and I can create a spreadsheet to see what the kids have done, and this is how I analyze all of my data. As I wait. Trying to
Melissa,
reconnect.
answer, how the kids will know there's feedback.
Oh, so the feedback will email them back and say you have feedback, and it'll give them back their exam with all the feedback. Good question. Oh, there, now it's working. All right, so this is why I have my first name, last name. And I can switch it, last name, first name, however you guys like to do it, because most of my class lists, when they're printed out to me at the beginning of the year, have last name, first name, and I can quickly move that back and forth to a mark sheet if I want to. This will give me a timestamp so I can see when did the kids actually answer this. I think that's going to be useful for remote learning, so I can see when kids are interacting when. The other thing I can do, which I won't go into right now, but I'll add some tutorial videos, is I can do conditional formatting so that if they've answered no on there, I can make it red. So I can quickly see, okay, that kid has not called a friend or hasn't checked in yet. And you can see this works for academic things as well, but right now I think I'm more focused on my students' well-being and my relationship with them versus whether or not they're getting the math concepts. Ooh, I shouldn't say that stuff, should I? All right, so, oh yes, always, always, always click preview and fill out your quiz. It'll catch your spelling mistakes, your grammar mistakes that you've made, but it will also give you a master sheet so that when I go to my form, the very top line, I might put, master here, the very top line is my answers. So when I'm marking, because I don't always remember all the answers to everything I've taught, when I'm marking, I'll have that answer sheet right at the top and I'm not going to lose it. This is how you do extended so you can do, short answer and long answer questions, obviously, in quiz, but those you have to go back and review yourself and give them feedback. As I said, you can give them the frequent feedback that you are likely to say anyway, and then individualize it. That's there for you. And this is how you do grading. So you can go in and you can grade the students, award them points based upon what they've done for that extended response. So this is how you give partial credit, because you know the kid, you know what they're trying to say, right? So that's how you can do extended response. And then if you are not doing a multiple choice with a definitive yes and no answer, release your grades whenever you're ready. So you've done all your feedback, and then you can release your grades all at once, and they will get a notification that you have done that. Conditional formatting. Oh yeah, Google Sheets. So once you've created this, it's here. It's here forever. Don't worry about, maybe I want to reuse this same quiz tomorrow. So I can go into here, right? And I can unlink this form from this data. It's still in my drive. I can download it. I can print it. Don't know why you'd want to, but you could. I can delete all my responses so that it's fresh and brand new, and I can send it out again the next day or do something different with it. That form still exists in my Google Drive. I've just unlinked it from right here. Whew, okay, that was a lot. I'm sorry, I went super fast. This is the Elementary Educator Remote Learning Resource. This is already up and live and ready for you. If you click on it, it will take you there. Again, the bit.ly is at the bottom. If you want to take the bit.ly or write it down, you can just go through parts of it instead of having to watch the whole Zoom session and find the part you want. If you go into here, so like this morning, they already did their seesaw, right? Rod very kindly takes what is in here after he's edited out all our mistakes and drops it into there. So ours will show up under Google. Oh, look, see, they've already got A in. So it's going to show up in there. The other thing is, in this time where we are struggling, You might need to reset some of your student passwords, and you don't have access to your teacher tools at home. So on Thursday and Friday, Matt Sanders and Trevor Martin are going to be in this Zoom session available for you so that you can pop in at 10 a.m. They'll probably stay there between 10 and 11, so you can pop in and ask them questions, or you can always email Trevor and then tell them, you know, they need to get more people on that team. All right, Teresa, you want to take back over? I'm going to stop sharing. There. Oh, you're muted. I can't hear you. No? Do you want me to finish? Or Brian, do you want to get back on and finish?
There was a question about
Sorry.
Oh, go.
I got
There
it.
was
It's
one
trying to
question about
share.
printing Google. Oh, sorry. You go, Teresa.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. It's just loading up here.
There was a question about printing Google Forms and some issues with only being able to print the first page. Can you speak to that at all?
Do you want to be able to print all the forms? You can do it. Do you want me to, I'll add a link on how to do that into the session. Does that sound good? I haven't actually ever tried to print all of them, but I will try to print a few of them at home, and I'll add a link on how to do it.
Here I am. Okay.
Actually,
So-
Kristen, throw that in the question slide so I don't forget.
Done.
So we would love your feedback. If you want to write in, that would be great. Here is the link or the QR code. And I can't, my screen, can't go to the next slide. Sorry. Thanks for coming, everybody. I want to thank my team as well. We worked really hard to get this up and running today. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate everyone's time. I know it's a stressful time for everybody. We're all learning how to do this. So we're learning together.
Oh, Sherry, I forgot to say that. Okay.
And oops, this isn't working. So this slide is not working, but there is where we're going tomorrow. We're going to be talking about a few other things. We moved Google Meets to tomorrow or Friday. We're going to talk about slides tomorrow. So let us know. Please give us your feedback. I'll put it back on that slide. There you go.
And we'll try to answer all your questions on Friday.
Yeah.